Now, for the further sessions, I would now like to invite a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Farhan Khan from Gov Connect. He is the co-founder, and he'll be taking you on a wonderful journey of the today's Reverie Present second Higher Education Innovation and Technology Summit powered by Brain Wonders. A huge round of applause for Mr. Farhan. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The National Education Policy was first formulated in 1986 and subsequently revised in 1992 and 1998. The new National Education Policy 2020 is a welcome step towards revamping the education system in the country. The policy aims at creating a global knowledge superpower in the field of education. Now, it's time to start our inaugural panel, Implementing the National Education Policy Steps Taken by Higher Education Institute. I would like to invite Dr. Indrajit Bhattacharya, Director, National Accreditation Board for Education and Training. Welcome, sir. Mr. Dheeraj Sanghi, Vice Chancellor, J.K. Lakshmivas University, Jaipur. Dr. Tabrez Ahmed, Vice Chancellor, G.D. Goenka University. Welcome, sir. Dr. Tankeshwar Kumar, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Haryana. Welcome you, sir. Professor Ajay Rana, Director General, MIT University. I think he is not in the hall. Professor P. Subramaniam, Vice Chancellor, Mangalore University. I welcome you, sir. Padmakali Banerjee, VC and President, SPIC University. Welcome, ma'am. Ram Karan Singh, Vice Chancellor, ICFI, Dehradun. Naresh Duble, Head Continuous Improvement and Marketing, Knopf Sealing Solutions. I welcome you, Naresh, sir. And Vivekanand Pani, Co-Founder and CTO, Reverie. I welcome you, sir. Dr. Indrajit Bhattacharya is the moderator of this session. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, one and all. Welcome to today's second Higher Education and Innovation and Technology Summit. I thank the organizers for inviting me to moderate the session. I think I'll first introduce my organization. I come from Quality Council of India, which is under the Ministry of Commerce. And my board is National Accreditation Board for Education and Training. And we are in this space of assessments and accreditation. We have the other boards which you may be aware of, the NABL, National Accreditation Board for Labs, National Accreditation Board for Hospitals, NABH, the NABCB, National Accreditation for Certification Bodies, and I come from the Education and Technology Board. So as I said, we are in this space of assessments and accreditation right from the K-12 level up to the higher education from the ITIs we have done earlier, and in the polytechnics, up to polytechnics level. We have been doing the accreditation space, and also in the undertaking the projects of R&D projects which have been from the Government of India, Ministry of Education's projects. So in the pandemic years, if you speak of the NEP, I have like currently 1 hour with me, and we have 10 stellar panelists with me. So I think we'll give 5 minutes each to each of the panelists so that we can have 10 minutes for question and answers. So NEP, as you know, has been an epic document, and this July we completed 2 years of NEP, as you all know. And the two important milestones which NEP did was, one was this making possible of multidisciplinary change switches happened. That was through the ABC and NAD, which is ABC stands for Academic Bank of Credits, and NAD stands for National Academic Depository. So these two entities were gazetted, notification came, and this has been made possible by the government with the NAD implementation through the Ministry of IT, and the Academic Bank of Credits for those institutions who register to those to enable the academic back of credit transfer happen seamlessly. And the second thing which happened was the NHEQF, National Higher Education Quality Framework, which was announced by the three leaders. One was from the UGC chief, the AICT chief, and the NCVET chief, so that transitioning from the formal and non-formal sector happens easily, right? Coming back to our organization, during the pandemic time, so we launched a scheme of learning service providers to ensure that the blended learning approach is promoted, and the accreditation of blended learning mode was through this learning service provider in a CAF mode, which is Conformity Assessment Framework. And this was framed by ensuring two different ISOs. One is 21001, which stands for EOMS, Education Organization Management Systems, and 29993, which stands for Learning Service Providers. So this was on CAF model, but you know the intricacies of education. There are so many nuances that another framework was designed on maturity assessment model. This was philosophized, and this stands for, the first parameter was for Intelligent Tutoring System, ITS. Second was for EMIS, which is Education Management Information Systems. Third is on RBL, Research-Based Learning, which the NEP document gives the highest focus. Fourth was on degree of automation, how much one should automate in the EdTech tools, which was mentioned by Mr. Menon in the opening remarks. The EdTech tools, if I tell you, the AI-driven EdTech tools has got so much of emphasis today in the your unicorn making, that out of over 100 unicorns, 11 unicorns are today from the EdTech space, and the leading one is Baiju, which is doing worth of $24 billion. You can imagine, where the EdTech market by 2030 is projected as $30 billion, but Baiju's as of today itself is listed at $24 billion. So you can see how much underestimated market this is and how speed it has caught. So on February, the Ministry of Education said that there are going to be only 4,500, there is 4,500 EdTech startups, but as of date, if you check on the internet, there are 9,000 EdTech startups in the country. So you can see the enormous, like he said, EdTech entrepreneurs happening, because there are so many dimensions of this. So as I was coming to the fourth dimension, which is the degree of automation, how much you want to automate. Like you can have the best of the content talking to you in your class and to your students, and personalized learning, which I mentioned the first topic one. The last but not the least, the fifth area is on trust, which talks about security, IT security, transparency, accountability, and ethics. So these are the 5 dimensions. So we went to the market from December 21 with all the higher education institutes that how much should be the weightage of these. What which came from the market was the 20% weightage on ITS, which is Intelligent Tutoring System. Second was the EMIS, again 20%, 30% on research-based learning, and 15 and 15% on last 2, which is degree of automation and trust. So with that, I think I think I have done my 15 minutes, and I'll go to the next speaker here from the most right, and I think you can introduce yourself. Yeah, so let us start from the left.
Thank you. So my name is Naresh. I represent Knauf Selling Solution, which is a global giant when it comes to construction industry. I take a pride in engaging with education over last 10 years, doing some basic level research for National Building Code. I was part of a technical committee for National Building Code, which lay a foundation for all the buildings. We say we first create the space, and that space create us. You and me as an educator or people who are engaged with education spend most productive awake time of our life into our buildings. So the contribution to National Building Code, contribution to the buildings, and contribution to the education as a quality in this country is all subject to multiple factor, but the one factor where I spent some time and done some what I'm going to share with you is the research around sound and acoustics. So all along 70 years post-independence, our development, we've been focused around how good is our curriculum. We also focus around how good are our teachers. And also we put our student in higher education, especially for qualifying to be in our institutes. So when they are coming and meeting teachers in an environment called campus or specifically a classroom, are we really mindful about the exchange between both of them? There are multiple factors which is at the source of performance, and you saw a case study of a JJ College of Architecture, which is like 150-year-old institute which has given the best architect to the world. I wouldn't say India, but to the world. But jab jage tabe savera, correct? So you will not find Australia. We are a multinational company. I studied education system across US, Europe, and Australia. None of these countries allow to start an institute unless you have a certificate on a national building code norms for sound, right? So our 5 senses are at the focus of learning, and we have all the knowledge around how learning and education and the flip education and stuff like that happening. We talk about it conference after conferences. But when we go back to our own institute, can you put a camera and a recording machine and observe what exactly is the happening stuff there? That is at the core of quality in my institute, right? That is at the core of performance of my teacher. Now, however educated the teacher is, if he is not able to engage with his students, he's going to repeat whatever he's saying, or he's going to get frustrated. And you saw that teacher talking about, he was a student of a JJ College of Architecture, now he's a professor. He's giving his experience before and after. And in my presentation, I'll take you through more case studies of IITs, IIM, and as a part of a national building code, I've been to more than 50 institutes, done some very important global research around sound and acoustics, coaching classes, and all our system. We need to really look at why we have so many coaching classes as standard 3rd or standard 5th or standard 10th, when the school should be enough to make knowledge available for our students in 6 or 8 hours of engagement. We are doing something desperately wrong at the basic level. Languages, now good, we have a national building, a new education policy, we give so much of flexibility to come in and go out. And that is a golden opportunity for all the institutions, right from K-12 level up to the higher education, making our building as an incubation center. Now, to make our building a world class, we need a basic facility. Like I said, none of these developed countries really talk about this because you cannot have an institute happening without basic norms around construction, not only fire and exit and lighting and stuff like that, but sound is, if not in education, where else sound would be important, right? So listening and speaking, exchange of information, engagement is the place where I feel the new education policy and national building code implementation should happen. So those are my introductory stuff, sir, on how we can look at, and we can engage with you. I'll give a presentation subsequently on this, but this factor, I can also engage with you personally on this, specific to your institute.
Very good morning to all of you, distinguished panelists and delegates. I am Professor Subramanya Edapadithaya, Vice Chancellor, Mangalore University, Karnataka. National Education Policy 2020, yes. Brilliant promises and daring proposals. Karnataka was the first state to implement NEP 2020 in a phased manner from the academic year 2021-22. Mangalore University introduced 4 years multidisciplinary holistic from the academic year 2021-22. Well, here the major punchline of NEP 2020 according to me is Nation first, character must. The point is well-rounded development of the personality of a learner on 5 dimensions: mental, intellectual, social, and spiritual. According to Swami Vivekananda, spirituality is nothing but the science of human excellence. The point is, we have to engage in a soul-searching question. Are we in a position to unleash the human potential within every student? Maybe an average student, an advanced learner, a slow learner. The biggest challenge in the classroom is how to handle student learning disengagement, cynicism, and skepticism. And the question is, we can succeed in all the challenges because undoubtedly there are certain concerns, apprehensions, and challenges in the implementation of NEP 2020 throughout India. The biggest challenge is mindset. There should be mind shift. चलता है चलने दो, ये नहीं चलेगा. It can happen. How to make it happen? It will not happen. No. How to make it happen? With an open mind, with a positive mental attitude, we should gear up. So there should be mind shift. The second one is implementation is the key. With the same key, we can lock and unlock. We don't require two keys. See, 1968 policy, it was good. 1986 policy was also good. We have done some tweaking in the year 1992. Nothing happened. And the same fate will also happen to NEP 2020 if we do not encourage mind shift and if we fail in implementation process. Three enemies are there. One is non-implementation. The second one is partial implementation. The third one is tardy or slow implementation. Unless we implement both in letter and spirit, NEP will also doom. The point is, it is only a policy statement. There are wonderful policy postulates, but there should be corresponding adjustment in the legal framework. For example, the Karnataka government has taken up the initiative to introduce the bill. That is Karnataka State University Act 2000 will be amended soon. Then only there will be a proper ecosystem. That is what the biggest idea behind NEP 2020 is. We have to respect student learning experiences, then flexibility and feedback. The recent professor of practice is a wonderful introduction by the University Grants Commission. The point is, we have to understand one important point. You are qualified, it is not enough, you must be competent. According to me, competence is made up of 5 critical ingredients: K, A, S, H, V. K means knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Domain-specific, application-oriented knowledge. A means attitude, positive mental attitude. S means relevant and requisite skill mix. H means positive learning habits. Then V means values. Ultimately, values left in our children touch their destiny more than valuables left to them. That is Kashvi, Kash tu meri hoti to. So that kind of situation. So qualified with your cumulative grade point average will not take you anywhere. We have to convert qualification into competency. That is what competency building education is proposed in NEP 2020. It is not the activity or the output which will happen, but the outcome based education. This is what my introductory remarks. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Myself, Tankeshwar Kumar. I am Vice Chancellor of Central University of Haryana, Mahendragarh. I have been Vice Chancellor of Guru Jambeshwar University of Science and Technology, Hisar, for about 6 years. The topic given is obviously national education policy, steps taken by higher education institutions. If I look at the steps which are taken by the higher education institutions, as my colleague has said that they have implemented some of the education policy. For example, we have also introduced the four-year degree course, four-year degree course that is graduation course for from the 21-22 also. But you know, the point is, if I look at the implementation of the national education policy, I agree with my colleague that, you know, it's the implementation is a very, very important, and which I will say its understanding is also more important. Because if we look at our higher education will all depend upon how we go around our school education. If you know, from the 6th onward, we will be introducing the vocational courses. You know, vocational courses will be there, and the students will be coming to the you know, the institution after having the vocational degrees. You know, what kind of the students will be admitting to the engineering, whether from the vocational courses or from the normal courses, right? That is going to change the, I will say, the market even. But now we look at the, when the same, my colleague was saying that we are having the Baiju and other companies. What we teach them is not the, we not don't teach them the practicals. We teach them this, how to basically crack the things. And you know, that is going to change the you know, the thinking, because if I look at the countries like Germany and Switzerland, you know, there, you know, a person, if we want to make a civil engineer, he cannot become a civil engineer unless he tries to become a mystery. Right, mason, less. So, you know, if I look at the, we have our markets, the markets we have various coaching institutes, and their market, if you look at, they have the various training center, where they provide the training on the, for example, even on the CNC machines, that will be available in the market. Market mean, it's not the market which is, I will say that it's the shopping market, it will be available there, where they will have the training institutes. So the students will be going to schools, not on the 5 days. Here we have see the school advertisement where they say that, okay, we also have the classes on Sundays, right? You know, that is the kind of the schools we are talking about. You know, there we have the different kind of schools where we say that the schools you have to go to 2 days, 3 days you go to for the training. Right, training, you know, they even in the 10th class so can build machine tools, right? He can do all the things. So that is what the national education policy is thinking about, that we should have people with the skills, which are requirement of the industry, right? Which is requirement of the industry, and they also provide the students the flexibility. And the flexibility, when I say there will not be any streams like commerce or science or management, or you know, these streams will not be there. The students will be able to have, you know, the courses they want. Whether we have higher education institutions for such you know, for such students which will be coming from the students, we are not ready for it, right? So that is going to be a lot of change. If you look at the education is going to bring in the I will say the edupreneur market also. It's not going to be the conventional. If we really implement the national education policy, then we will be, you know, having a different kind of students, and we're talking about, we say, the multidisciplinary. Are we able to still stay that we can appoint somebody from, let's say, in the, we have done, let's say, from Master of Physics, can we appoint in the Department of Chemistry? No, we cannot, you know, as on today. But, you know, all these things will be happening. All these things will be happening if we really implement the National Education Policy 2020. And I see a lot of change if we introduce, let's say, if we have, let's say, 80% of the students goes into the vocational side, rather than we say few may opt for it, few may opt for vocational studies, because then we have the conventional system. So then we do not see that the NEP will bring a marginal change in this, because what we want is really a person who has got degree, even I would say the 12th class he has passed out, he should be employable. He should be employable. That is what we look at through the NEP. So that the change has to be brought in the school education, as only then it through the higher education. When I say that to get an admission in the engineering and things, this should not be based on single competitive exams, right? So the market is also going to change if we really change this criteria. So, and you know what flexibility and because this is what we call as the innovation summit, and I see that the students are attracted toward innovation. We have to really set up our innovation and incubation center, and there is a lot of scope in working on this. And when we start talking about the 4-year degree courses, so that will mean that the 4th year could be even to the innovation or could be to the research. So we'll be involving the young mind into the, for example, towards the research as well as innovation. So that can bring really change in the, I will say, actually what we talk about is we can, if we wish to really make our country self-reliant, we should involve more and more young people into the innovation, and also we may make them to more and more entrepreneur or entrepreneurs. So with these words, I this consider as my introductory remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
So thank you. This is Dr. Tabriz Ahmed. I'm the Vice Chancellor of GD Goenka University. In fact, we are very well known in the country in the school education from last 28 years. And we are running 100 schools providing the education of 1 lakh students right now in the country. And all are very good schools and spread throughout the country in all the big cities. Our university in the Gurgaon, and we started in 2013. And we are really holistic university, because what is the idea of the new education policy that have the multi university where you are able to run all the kind of courses, so students will be able to take and select evaluated courses, or they can have multiple integrated options. So in fact, we are having the 12 school in the campus. In fact, whether engineering, management, law, architecture, design, humanities, science, everything we are having in the campus. So we are truly already ahead what the government is trying to establish from 2020 in the new education policy. So I don't agree about that in the other policy we are not able to do anything, because see, all the policy were actually depending on that time period. So if you talk about the 1968, the focus was different. If you talk about the 86, for the first time government have given a lot of importance to science education. And because of that, India became the market leader in the world. 30% scientists in NASA is from India. Because the Rajiv Gandhi government that time gave a lot of focus on science and technology. And that is the outcome right now we're seeing. Accordingly, we have gone for, in fact, revising and giving the de-licensing in 1991, because we changed the policy trying to attract the foreign investors in the country. Accordingly, we have changed the 1992 policy. Now the focus is different. Now we are really thinking that how we can survive. We have seen in the pandemic that how we are struggling to survive because of the science and technology, because of the internet and the social media, because of the edtech companies, we could survive. But still the question is that why only 30% universities were running the education during pandemic last 2 years, and 70% universities, college, school, they were not able to run because they're not ready for this kind of pandemic, because they don't have the trained faculty, trained student, they don't have the technology, they don't have infrastructure, and they're big sufferers. Or the poor kind of the families, poor school, especially the primary school in the poor areas, they could not do anything for 2 years. And now in the whole life, all the students will be having lacuna in their mind, in their learning competency. Even those who are hiring for them, they will ask questions. Out of 4-year BTech, what was your period during pandemic? And then they have a question mark on them. So the question is that how we are going to sustain in future. And that's why I must appreciate the effort made by the tech companies trying to empower the faculty and the student. And then we can now think that how we can use technology in the classroom where the faculty performance can be enhanced, or student can learn better by using the technology. Now what we can do, we should not run everything physically, and we should not run everything online. But edtech company is trying hard that they want to shift the faculty student to say that everything can be run online. No, I don't agree. But on the question, let us filter out what can be run online, what can run offline. If anybody can do this kind of filtering, they can do wonders. Because right now we have a lot of technology who can help us to proctoring the classroom examinations. Why faculty should come and sit for 3 hours? A professor who can do a research in laboratory is sitting in the classroom just to organize the examination. And there is no value add in his life, because he is an academician, he is a researcher, he should be in laboratory. Same way, the why students should come by traveling 2 hours, going back 2 hours, in the way just to give the examination. He can give examination from his own comfort level. And the 4 hours he's investing in transport, he can use for raising the quality and competency building. So this way, I think great scope is there for us to review and take the benefit of technology to raise the quality and standards. Right now, we are struggling to have place in the world. We are producing very good quality people, but they are going helping the other foreign countries, and they are going doing innovations, getting patents, and we are buying those technology by paying. In fact, we are losing balance of payments. So all these scientists you see, even currently all the MNCs, they are run by a lot of Indians. They are the CEOs, okay? But the actual benefit India is not getting because we have given the basic qualifications, they have gone to foreign countries. Now the question is that, what was the challenge they faced? Why they decided to go to foreign countries when they could have given back to us? When the condition was there to innovate something, invent something, and get the IPR for India, they have gone to the foreign country and given IPR. Now patent is with the foreign company, and we are then buying those things. It means that something was there we could not offer, and they decided to go back to the foreign country. Now the question is that how we can raise those standards so they can retain back, and then we can really export the higher education to the foreign countries. Why Indians are going in bulk, even a few lakhs, 20 lakhs are going to the foreign universities for higher education. Why not we can raise the standards and attract other Asian countries to come to India? So we tried our level best, and then last 2 years we are able to attract 500 students from the foreign countries. They're studying from 25 countries, they're studying in our campus. And we are trying very hard to let us change the trend, because then you require a world-class infrastructure, you require world-class faculty, you require world-class laboratories, and you require very strong IT support. Then they will be able to kind of do a better job, and then going back to the foreign, then we can attract the foreign students coming to India. I think all the vice chancellors sitting here, and although a lot of CEOs sitting here, definitely it's time for a lot of options are there, and we have a lot of opportunities for that we can do, because government is very strongly supporting. Government is saying now all the top 100 foreign universities can come to India and set up their campuses. What we can do, we can join hands with them, because when they come to India, they do not have anything. They may not have the infrastructure, they may not have the real backup, but we can offer the basic support. And what we can do, we can see our strong areas, their strong areas, we can join hands, and by blending, we can do a great job, by collaborations. So with these few words, I think it is a great time for us. And then what I see, if I filter out the strong points from the new education policy, what I see, it is giving options for individualized based training, education, and career options. Because students get a lot of chance to entry exit options, they have a lot of chance to select valued courses, a lot of chances to have the selection of programs, and they can mix up now. In this process, I think those students from good families, they are 4th generation education, they can do a good job, because they are very well aware what are the options they can take, what program is doing good, what is the career option in future. But those families from first time generation, because government is saying they're going to raise the enrollment from 28% to 50% in next 15 years. It means that now future is lying in the new generation, first generation families joining the education sector. Those families, parents are not aware what the child will do, but they will go by the hearsay, go by the relatives, what they are saying, somebody is doing well, they will opt those courses. They may get confused because they're getting a lot of chances to select the courses. Now in fact, if somebody is given autonomy, it can be tool for excellence or tool for disaster. So this autonomy given by the government of India should not be giving a disaster, because if they will go on selecting courses without any future planning, then they will be land up nowhere. Because a few courses from technology, a few from psychology, a few from humanities, and ultimately he is best for none. But at least current policy is producing excellent people. That's why we are doing well in the foreign countries. Because we said from 9th itself, we should try to go whether for commerce, humanities, or science, or in 11th you decide, you want for the biology or math, go for engineering or for law, or medical or law. But new policy is giving options. Now we are having strong role to play. All the universities and professors mentors play. So mentoring is a very important option. So mentor-mentee system should be very, very strong, because all these students should go to the mentor for asking the options, and mentor is not qualified, if mentor is not trained, mentor is not aware, mentor may not guide well. So we as a professor, as a vice chancellor, we should train the faculty. If faculty is not qualified, faculty is not trained, not aware, how they will guide those mentees, okay? So that's why the mentorship should be very important. And also the mentor should think that the students should do well in what areas. Now we are very fast growing in the market, but now we have to match up the skill set of the student. We have to think from the very beginning who can do what, because everybody cannot do excellent in every areas. So first is deciding the kind of domain, second is deciding the kind of competency, and third, what are the options they can take. For example, law. In law right now, 8 options are there. You can go practice, you can become a judge, you can join a law firm, you can join a company as a legal head, or you can also join a multinational company handling international laws, or you can also policy maker. You can join a government office, do policies, draft laws, or you can be kind of advisor to any companies. But the point is that every lawyer cannot do all these activities. He's a lawyer, but they may have different skill sets. Now our job is that to then match with these skill sets and then provide them proper kind of selection of the courses, these supporting from the internships, and then joining career options. If you can match up the skill set of the student, they can do wonders. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Just by way of introduction, my name is Dheeraj Sanghi. I am yes. Now we have, this is a relatively young university. We have engineering, design, and management as 3 disciplines. Now, when we talk about NEP, I'm not sure what to say, because recently I was talking to a few people and I was telling them what all we have been doing for the last 5 years. And so there was discussion about NEP, and he said, so you haven't quite changed much since NEP was announced. And I was like, how does it matter? No, you're not implementing NEP. So let me tell you what we do already, which we have been doing prior to NEP 2020. Right? We really believe that we are an autonomous institution. And therefore, what we must do is not based on a paper that somebody has written, maybe after a lot of thought, but based on what we believe is good for our students. And therefore, there are 2 things that really are the pillars of our quality education. One is mobility of students, which is also happens to be in NEP 2020. So for example, we strongly support students with lateral admissions. They can spend 1 or 2 years in some other institution and come to us in 2nd year, 3rd year. Similarly, if any of our students want to leave and join some other institutions, we welcome that. There is no student will ever have a difficulty in getting transcripts or whatever certificates they want from us. We really strongly believe that it is students' choice where to study, when to study, and so on and so forth. Similarly, 4-year UG program, our master's program have always been, again, everything that I'm saying has been prior to NEP 2020. Our master's program were always designed with a view that if they spend 1 semester, they will get a certificate. If they spend 2 semesters, they will get a diploma. If they spend 4 semesters, they will get a master's degree. The interdisciplinarity is right from the beginning. An engineering student at JKLU, of course, does majority of the courses in science and engineering, but they must do courses from other disciplines that we have on campus, which includes design. They must do courses from design. They must do courses from management. And they must do courses from humanities and social science. In fact, a large number of them. Okay. So, somebody mentioned professor of practice. We have had professors of practice for last many, many years. Somebody mentioned online education. We have allowed our students to do NPTEL and Coursera courses prior to NEP 2020. So I think we are doing a whole lot of things which NEP has suggested, but we have been doing them for a fairly long time. So I'm not sure whether that counts for implementing NEP or not, but this is what we are. Thank you very much.
I think I heard all the panelists on the left. I quickly want to interject that yesterday I heard the Minister of Education as well as Minister of IT firsthand in a Business Today conference. And the same question concerned that why are there so many Indian students going abroad? But the minister responded that that should not be a concern. Those who can afford, let them go out. But those who want to stay, will make our institutions of high quality and also ensure that the best of the universities set up institutes in India so that we can have the best of education happening in India. And also the NDR, which stands for National Education Architecture, heavily invests on AI so that it ensures that the edtech tools are driven by AI and the digitalization happens very quickly. And to add on, the Minister of IT said in October this year, the 5G becomes live. And that means a lot of bandwidth is going to happen in the education sector as well as in the health sector. So these two will benefit massively when 5G enters. So the whole emphasis is on digitalization, and quickly the education institutions should digitalize itself and benefit from this. And from our end, we have put across the maturity assessment model so that they can go on stepwise and mature themselves. My whole lecture is available on the UGC site, Chetna lecture.
I'm sorry, there's just one small little thing that I wanted to mention, I forgot. We also allow our students to spend a semester somewhere else and come back. And almost 25 to 30% of our students actually spend a semester in IITs, triple ITs, universities abroad, and so on, and they come back and do the remaining part with us. So that's another part of student mobility that we very strongly support.
Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. I think very pertinent points have been stressed upon by all the esteemed panelists and vice chancellors. I am Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, and I have some varied experience starting my journey from University of Delhi in the early years. Then very recently I have joined J.K. Siemens Sir Padampat Singhania University in Udaipur. Prior to that, I was heading as the Pro-Vice Chancellor of the Amity University, Haryana in Gurugram. So I want to really stress upon a few things that, Mr. Menon in the beginning, in the opening remarks, spoke about the edupreneur. And I think I just love coining that word, because if you look at some of the positives that happened during COVID positive were to see so much of social entrepreneurship coming up. We have seen so many startups in the field of platform technology. So I think I do agree, Mr. Menon, that we are seeing a lot of, collaborative efforts that is giving a lot of emphasis in better education in the higher education space. Now coming to the NEP 2020, that's another very important, positive, progressive step by the government of India. I would like to say that way back in 2013, I remember introducing flexible credit system. And after very soon, in fact, UGC also started the choice-based credit system. So my very first aspect is on academic innovation and delivery. So the robust curriculum and with a technology-enabled environment that we are seeing today. So most of the higher education universities definitely need a very strong technology, not just a classroom environment. We are talking about a hybrid environment. So I do agree that while talking about global institutions, there need to be co-learning environments. So I see that I could get the stalwarts to come into the classrooms of our students during the COVID positive, because we as higher education specialists became flexible. We were accepting the new medium of delivery. So one aspect, definitely, I think even NEP is given a lot of emphasis. So a certain percentage of your courses can be done through MOOCs and proper online platforms. So that is number one. The second area that I very strongly emphasize on is industry integrated curriculum delivery system. So when I say industry integration, to give you an example, since JK Cement is one of the largest cement manufacturers in the world, we have introduced cement technology as a center of excellence, and we are working with the government, with the policymakers, to introduce not just for mechanical and civil engineering, but also to manage the cement technology as a concept. Similarly, if you look at introduction of AI/ML, which is companies like Zebia are very closely working with us in the delivery system. So you're bringing the industry to the classroom in a more structured manner, where I think NEP is given a very beautiful way ahead, and also maintaining the quality. So because I have the Quality Council of India right on my left sitting here, I must see that the earlier aspect was audit, for the universities. So I think the government has taken a very progressive step also to empower, right? So I think that is a very important aspect that we're looking at. And thirdly, I have a lot of interest on internationalization. One of my models that I created called 6Cs model, where we are talking about choice, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity, and change. This has also been published on a open book by United Nations, on a handbook, where you say that how universities can implement proper choices to the students. How do you collaborate with the industry to bring in that kind of knowledge where? And finally, what I would definitely like to say, that we need to create a league of institutions coming together. So how can you share those best practices? One of this professor in practice that we are talking about is definitely not new in terms of implementation, but it is now good because you have a proper policy around it. So you know that maybe 10% of your faculty can be from professor of practice and for a particular term. So it is not an indefinite period. Then we are looking at the way patenting systems are, patents and commercialization. So I see through this implementation of NEP, you can have industry more closely working with the higher educational centers of excellence and come out with commercialization of this patent. So we are giving a lot of emphasis. So in my present university, we are working very closely with the industries, people from the government, the tech enablers. We are looking at smart classroom environment, smart spaces, and also, end of the day, we have to think of these students. So when you talk about students, I call them learners in crisis. What they have witnessed in the last 2 years, none of us have seen that. So we see that, we need to hear the voices of the youth. So bring in youth to giving them a lot of opportunity to take part in at least contributing to become a member. They may not be deciding factors for curriculum development, but they can work towards communicating about the student aspects. So immersion programs with the industries, student completely taking a lot of young entrepreneurial projects. So let me tell you another aspect by DST. I had instituted and one of the programs called the Good Lab Practices. Now most of the universities have initiated. Then programs like Inspire. So we need to actually work closely with the funding agencies, the higher level institutions coming together and trying to create a better environment. For the internationalization, one more point, because in fact, last month, I was there speaking at the SET Business School, University of Oxford, where more than 40 institutions across the world have come together to work in the area of cyberspace. People are working in the area of cloud computing. So we are seeing that people have become now more accepting. So learning from the different experts, and that's the way forward. And for MEP implementation of NEP, we see a collaborative effort that will work through and have a very structured plan for the next 5 years for every university. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I am Vivekanand Pani, co-founder of Reverie Language Technologies. And I have been a language computing engineer for like 25 years now. So my passion for education has been really strong, but NEP, I would say, is, I think, is groundbreaking. If, like Professor Subramaniam said, implementation becomes key, but the aspects that we must understand, because it's all about the mindset, the aspects that are critical, I would like to mention a few out here. That, we all understand knowledge is power, and learning practically happens with the beginning of life and ends only with death. Whereas, a child who is born starts to learn right from its birth by looking at, the parents, friends, etc. They learn to communicate, the language with which they are speaking to their parents, family members, and so on. When they are ready to go to school, NEP also emphasizes on how elementary education should be. But here we are talking about high school, higher education. So I am trying to bring out a very essential point out here, that when the child goes to school, at that point, they already know the language. They try to learn only to be able to read and write in elementary school. Once they have learned to read and write, that stays with them for life, which is why today we see most Indians are able to read a newspaper, a storybook, etc. in their languages. Even an auto rickshaw driver or a security guard sitting and reading storybooks, etc. But they still are not able to get access to professional knowledge, anything that can help them get empowered. So, which is, that aspect basically makes NEP very different from the previous education policies that we have had. I would also mention that education, doing that is not going to be trivial. Today, we will not be able to manage any education without the use of the digital media, without adopting technology. But at the same time, a particular statistic might actually be interesting for all of us, is that internet has become the largest medium for knowledge, for all of us, students included. And therefore, it already has a significant advantage for a student who is already comfortable with English versus a student who is not. And to add to that, I would like to bring in another number, that internet came to India in the year 1995. Any of the Indian languages being able to use on the internet, I would say my mother tongue, Odia, it could not happen until as late as 2016. So almost 20 years, if I am not able to even read or write my language on the internet, there is no way that I could create knowledge with which people can use. When we are talking about machine learning, today we call our languages as low resource languages. Where does that resource come from? When people use their language on the internet. All the knowledge that is already out there has been created by people's contribution, voluntary contribution. Nobody really pays them or forces them to create all of that. So knowledge, that becoming a medium of access, the digital adoption has been critical. We are practically making a very, very delayed start. NEP mentions that we must try and have a central digital library for curriculum. But the technical limitations in being able to create those in our languages continues to be one of the bigger challenges. And I think we, most of us in this space of education, ought to put in some amount of, I would say, serious thinking in understanding those challenges, without which I think 95% of the students who, I would say not 95% students, but 95% Indians who would still aspire to learn without English will continue to face this problem. We can say that, education in native languages will be available, but they will continue to remain underprivileged just because of the technical challenges that we have in the digital medium. That's all I would say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all my panelists. So now I would like to invite a few questions from the audience. Please introduce yourself and whom this question is meant for. Can you raise your hands? You can ask. Yes, please, sir. Can I have a mic there? Can we have a mic there? Just hold on. So there's a mic.
Excuse me, sir.
Here.
So the three type of education
Please
in India.
introduce yourself.
Dr. Mahapatra. I am a neurosurgeon, worked at AIMS for 42 years. Now I went back to my own state, Odisha, and working as Vice Chancellor in Shiksha Anusandhan University, which is 25 years old, and there are about 15,000 students, 13 institutions, multidisciplinary university. What I am thinking, after spending 50 years or 42 years at Delhi, I think three types of education. One is high standard education, IIT, IIM, or triple ITs. There are middle level and very low level where it is taught in local language. Three types. There are then central university, deemed university, state universities. When you put all this, we are vice chancellor. If you look at the internet, vice chancellor getting 1.5 lakh to 10 lakhs. No symmetry. Why I am telling this? It's a very good policy to have NEP. But when you started online education, the beginning it was estimated $365 billion is required if all school and colleges students have to have online education with a very high bandwidth and a handset. That time I look at the India has only less than 100 million handsets, and 10% students have facility for handset, not internet.
Please
The
ask the question.
question is that, do you think when you talk about inclusive education, Odisha is 40% tribal. How do I make it inclusive so that it reaches the grassroots level, first thing. Second thing, when I talk to our Minister of Education in Odisha, none of the state universities, state colleges had online education. He said, no, I cannot only do for Cuttack, Bhubaneswar, not for Malkangiri, tribal area, because 40% student tribal. So when you talk, we are sitting here, top people, how do I know last man in the line get the same facility what I get in IIT, IM or AIMS?
My quick answer is 5G. 5G is the solution which will take to T2 and T3 cities. So that is my quick answer.
$65 billion you have to spend. You have to get, you can take the things there. But how you do with the student, those who are not knowing English? What did he say? We do not have Odia language, Telugu language. There are 212,000 languages in India and 250 scripts.
Thank you for your question. I think it's a very important point about inclusive education. So as already pointed out, I was almost going to talk about the 5G, but at the same time, I want to add that I talked about creating a league of institutions. So adopting some of the institutions where a large university can reach out. So a lot of extension activities can happen. And there again, I'm coming to the online education. Through online education, the cost really comes down for an affordable education. So some of the mixed ways of eclectic pedagogy, I think a lot of people at the bottom of the pyramid can be helped. And there again, it's not only the responsibility of the government or higher education institution, it is also the corporate houses. The remotest corner, you have retail outlets. So how do these corporates, along with government and higher education, come together to provide this kind of solution? Thank you.
The second answer is the AI. Artificial intelligence has deep tech, which has NLP, natural language processing. So this is a big project which government has already taken, and this is going to ensure that multiple languages are addressed.
2.5 years NEP. I am also with you. It should be done. But how many institutes have real IIT Kanpur or he is talking about technology at Jaipur? Have they introduced in a regional language? How long is it going to take? We have talked NEP 25, 30, 35, right? By that time it will be possible, but it has to be so process of transaction. Transit will be, crossroad is so broad and so wide, so diverse, so that it will take a long time. We have to harp it for 10 years to get it done.
I do not agree, sir, but we can talk separately on this because you have seen CUET happening on multiple languages front, and this technology is available and manpower is also available. It is a process which is going to take time, but it will not take 10 years. It will happen very quickly. You can see that.
He asked a very pertinent question about the inclusivity. Because see, if you talk about the first policy in 1968, the focus was that the government will invest 6% of the GDP on the higher education. But till now, never government invested 6%. And even the new policy, government is saying to invest, but ultimately we have to allocate money and also invest. Because ultimately investment level is 1 to 2%, if you see real investment. So one thing is investment by the government willingness to invest. Another is a very important point somebody mentioned about the involvement of the corporate sector, because now they have CSR fund, around 2 to 3%. Now what they can do, they can measure fund they can give to education, because it's a very important area to explore as a CSR. And then in that case, that's what the new policy government is saying, to go for regional education, regional languages. And Google is working very hard to give translation to a lot of content in the local languages. I think it's a very tough task, but we can do it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the last man. Yes. Okay, this is the last question. This is the last quick question. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, can we have the mic there?
I'm okay to wait.
Okay, then this gentleman here, please.
Yeah, I am from Jharkhand. There are 37 languages of Jharkhand. But out of 37, only 4 or 5 Jharkhand languages dictionary was made. Rest, till now, it is not available in the year. So if we are going to teach in the local language, I have a doubt at what time it will take to reach these 37 languages of Jharkhand.
Sir, there is a language lab which is in place, technology is in place, and this is going to happen soon. It will not take 10 years, it will happen quickly. We have to see that.
No, it's okay,
and
but
the NEP talks about it, about language.
already in this matter, I had a discussion with our Jharkhand government also, Jharkhand governor also. We have made the dictionary, 2 dictionary Jharkhand language, but even the 37 languages, the people are not ready to prepare the dictionary, and then it will come to the courses and all these things.
I am not the person to answer that. Only I can say the technology is in place and
Yeah.
the people are there in place to make it happen, like the gentleman spoke on my right. Right.
Okay.
The last question here, one gentleman said. Yeah.
Sir, can we take this offline?
This is the last one. Yeah. Quick.
Trust me, it's a good question.
Quick. Yeah.
Okay, so we have been talking about 5G. And we all know that by the way, my name is Partha. I am working as a professor for Symbiosis, and I'm also doing my doctorate from Swiss School of Business Management. Quick. Now, we are speaking about 5G. 2 things. One, 4G is still not rolled out in most part of the country. 5G would be again a distant spectrum. That's one part of the problem. The other thing is that since there are few of the gentlemen here among the panelists who are close to the government, we know Adani has bid for a very private 5G spectrum bidding. Now, can't large institutes and universities who have a bigger domain to cover and large universities to cover, they be given a cheaper 5G spectrum so that within the certain locality, they can spread the education which is perhaps needed?
So I think this is not a question for this panel. I just said that yesterday the Minister of IT declared that during October, 5G is going to be launched. And the 2 top beneficiaries are going to be education and health. That's it. With that,
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhattacharya sir, for moderating this session, and big round of applause for all the panelists to sharing out the best practices to implement the national education policy. Now I may invite Mr. Manish Naidu, founder Brain Wonders, to present a special token of appreciation to all the fellow panelists. To start with Dr. Indrajit Bhattacharya, Director, National Accreditation Board for Education and Training. Big round of applause, please. Mr. Dheeraj Sanghi, Vice Chancellor, J.K. Lakshmipat University, Jaipur. Dr. Tabrez Ahmad, Vice Chancellor, G.D. Goenka University. Dr. Tankeshwar Kumar, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Haryana. Padma Kali Banerjee, VC and President, Sir Padmavat Singhania University. Ma'am, please. Ram Karan Singh, Vice Chancellor, ICFI, Dehradun. Okay, sir is not here. Mr. Naresh Duble, Head Continuous Improvement and Marketing of Ceiling Solutions. Professor Ajay Rana, Director General, MIT University. Even he is not here. Mr. Vivekanand Pani, Co-founder, CTO, Reverie. Professor P. Subramaniam. And Professor P. Subramaniam, Vice Chancellor, Mangalore University. Can we have a group photo? Please join us for a group photo. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So